Have you ever missed out on a quote or a tender by someone who's charging significantly more than you? I have. Hang around and I'll tell you how. So a handful of years ago, I was asked to do a tender on a commercial building. Story was a company had bought a really large office warehouse in the southeastern suburbs of Melbourne, and they were moving in. And they put up a proper tender document. So it's a professional company. I believe 5 other businesses were asked to tender on this place, and we submitted the tenders. I was really confident in this because we had the runs on the board. We'd done tenders plenty of times before, and I went through the tender document back to forward, and I fulfilled absolutely everything that they required. And I had a sharp pencil, but I wasn't undercutting myself. So anyways, submitted, by the time we'd had to submit the documentation, heard back from the manager a few weeks later. Guy rang me back, I think his name was Paul. He said, Pete, he goes, I just want to say thank you for submitting the tender. He goes, appreciate all the service. And he goes, I just want to say on this occasion you weren't successful. Now I was gutted because I was actually thought that we were almost a sure thing. And so I was like a bit despondent, and he was about to hang up. I said, can I ask you a question? And he's gone, sure. I go, if you don't mind me asking, how much more in percentage terms was than the company that won it? He goes, where you weren't. I said, what do you mean I wasn't? He goes, they were 60% more than yours. And I almost thought I misheard what he said. And I said, I was 60% more than them. He said, no, they were about 60% more than you. And so I was dumbfounded because it was the last thing I expected. And I said, so, I go, mate, I was sure I responded to everything that you asked in the tender document to my best of my ability. He goes, Peter, he goes, you did everything fantastic. He goes, we actually rang the other companies that you deal with, and he goes, yeah, you've got great reputation. And he said, but on this instance, it wasn't enough. I said, well, what was it about this other company? He said, you did everything we asked. He said, this guy did a lot more. He goes, he thought of things we hadn't thought of. He delivered more. And he said, if I could put it to you simply, and this way, he said, you're a really good tradesperson. He goes, I can see that. I go, but he's a really good businessman. And there was the difference. He did something I hadn't thought of. So anyway, I hung up the phone. To say I was gutted, would be an understatement. So anyway, I've been mulling on this for a few weeks, and it's just one of those things. We needed the cash injection. And anyway, I remember it was coming up to a Saturday night, and my wife goes, let's go out with the family. We're going to go to Chinese in the suburb of Dingley in Melbourne, which is a southeastern suburb. And I said to Tanya, look, we're a bit skint. I don't want to spend more than $12 a head. So it was me, her, and it was, I think, my daughter and son at that time. They were only young. And she goes, okay. So we went to this restaurant, nice restaurant, nothing special. Anyway, I sat down, had a look at the menu, and she goes, what do you want to order? So I ordered for her, and I ordered for me, and ordered for the kids. And Tanya sat back, Tanya being my wife, she's gone, hang on. She goes, I didn't think you want us to spend more than $12 a head. And I just spend 30 a head. She goes, what's going on? And I looked at it and I said, oh, look at all these things that I really like. And so anyway, we got the food, and it was great. We enjoyed the evening, got home that night, went to bed. I think it was around midnight, and I just couldn't sleep. It was 1 or 2 in the morning, and I got up, went into my office, and sat down. I opened up the menu, and I'm going, how did I just do that? And when I had a look at this menu, everything was set out in 3. So they had their base menu, which was $15 a head. Then I think the next one was 22, which was an interesting number. And then it was $30 a head. And what I realised was that it wasn't that there was a lack of quality in the $12 a head one, which was the base one. because the quality would have been consistent all the way through. It was just more of what I actually liked in the premium one. And I've gone, that's it. When Paul, that manager, said to me, he gave us more than we imagined. He went beyond. This menu was beyond what I imagined. And so I'm looking at this and we go, here's the answer. And so what I then did was I had a look at all the things that we did in terms of our service levels, and looking at this menu, I'm going, okay, we need to start itemising and doing things. So I rearranged my whole business, and it was that we created our three-tier approach. And so we did that, and things started to change on these little small jobs, and I found that clients were wanting to spend more, which is great. Anyway, 2 or 3 months later, once again, I was asked to do another tender. It was bigger than the one that I missed out on. And another ASX, which is, it's on the stock market, company listed, big international Australian company, and they bought this huge office warehouse, once again I think it was in Knoxfield. And I put the bids in, got a phone call, might have been 3 or 4 days later, and the guy I was dealing with, Marvin or something or other, said, hey Pete, can you make a start on these dates? I go, sure. He goes, yeah, we want everything, just get it done. So anyway, it was a lot of work. So from the time they got delivery of the property, the time we had to hand over, it was 4 days. So we had a massive team in there. I didn't leave the whole time. Got it all done and dusted, handed in the invoice, they paid by check, which was great. And they were just a great bunch of people to deal with, honest, straight up. And Marvin said to me, he goes, do you know why you got the job? And I said, I don't know, my wit, charm, good looks. And he laughed. He goes, no, not that. I go, what, keen pricing? He said, no. He goes, matter of fact, he goes, you are 5 times more expensive than the next closest one. He goes, the other 4 within, he goes, you could have thrown a blanket over those 4 companies. I said, so why did you select me? He said, we could not afford for this to go wrong. He goes, this is a really big deal for our company. And he goes, we could not afford for it to go wrong. And this was the test of my thesis. And it wasn't about price for them. There was a lot more that kept them up at night, and it wasn't me. And in the scheme of their business, what I was charged was big bickies to me, it wasn't to them. And here's the one thing, is that their motivation was different. You see, when we find out what our client's motivation is, what's making them tick, it's not always money. Sure, we've got to be fair. It's not about being a rip-off. Quality and all that, you got to do that. But when you understand their motivation, believe me, dollars isn't the first thing that comes to mind. There could be a lot more at stake that you actually don't know about. So here's the key thing I would say to you. Before you go speak to a customer about price or anything else, when someone asks a price over a telephone, if that's where you are in your business, or you go out and you do a quote or a tender, first of all, find out what their motivation is. And if you find out what their motivation is, it could be that they're not too worried. They want something spruced up. Well, that's fine. But in this instance, there was so much at stake. And so don't undersell yourself. Don't undersell them. Find out what's really motivating them to step up to the plate. Be the businessman, not the really good tradie. Hopefully that helps.